Hey, this is Scott Luton with Supply Chain Now. I invite you to check out this excerpt from a recent webinar featuring Tom Brennan with Rootstock and two outstanding leaders from a powerful nonprofit called Vitamin Angels. That would be Bonnie Forsell and her colleague Shelly Gralewski. Hope you enjoy it as much as our team did here at Supply Chain Now.
So Vitamin Angels is a global health, a public health and nutrition organization that delivers essential vitamins and minerals to undernourished pregnant women and children in the US and around the world. And we do this by offering 4 nutrition interventions. So those include prenatal vitamins, vitamin A supplementation, deworming drugs, and then supplementary feeding programs. And so we really focus our efforts on reaching the most vulnerable populations, which are, or most vulnerable people, which are pregnant women, infants, and children under the age of 5. And these are people who live in underserved and marginalized populations. Just some quick stats, roughly 30% of the global population lacks access to national health services. So we specifically focus our efforts on reaching that 30%. And this approach really allows us to complement the work of existing national health services and allows us to reach those who really need the nutritional support the most. And you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Thanks. So in order to make the greatest impact, we partner with over 1,600 program partners all over the world. And these include other nonprofit organizations and local governments. We leverage these existing this existing infrastructure and intimate knowledge of their communities by adding our vitamins and minerals to their existing health and nutrition services. So to give you an idea of how our supply chain works and how we do this, we have finished a good product that either gets donated to us or we purchase it ourselves. This product is stored in one of our 13 warehouses around the world, where it can then be distributed to one of our program partners. So currently we use Salesforce as our CRM to manage these grants to partners, which are sales orders in our system. And then we use Rootstock to manage the inventory and the fulfillment of these orders. So last year we reached over 70 million mothers and children in over 70 countries around the world. And we also, and within all 50 states, we're in all 50 states as well. So our commitment to upholding sector best practices, executing our mission in a financially efficient way, it's earned us the highest ratings available from leading charity evaluators. That includes Charity Navigator and GuideStar. So really in summary, we do what we do because we truly believe that everyone deserves a chance at a healthy life.
Really, really fantastic. And actually, this looks pretty complex. You're very distributed, if you will, as well. You're where you're trying to get these things to, and then your own team. Can you comment a little bit about how virtual you are as an organization and your ecosystem? And maybe I'll just switch to this one as well.
Yeah, sure. So in the US, we're headquartered in Santa Barbara, California, and we have another office in Chicago. And then we have a few employees that work remotely, and Shelly is one of those employees. She's in North Carolina. Internationally, we have boots on the ground in 14 countries. We're in Asia, Europe, Latin America, and Africa. And then, like I said, we operate in 70 different countries. So we're quite spread out. But overall, we're pretty spread out. And the vast majority of our staff are actually in our offices in Santa Barbara and in Chicago. But like much of the world, in March, we went to 100% remote workforce. So nobody's in our offices now. And transitioning to this remote work certainly had some challenges from an HR and people perspective, but luckily from a tech perspective, we were really already equipped to carry on business as usual from our homes, as our systems were all on the cloud. So everything you spoke about before, everything is on the cloud for us. So all of our employees have laptops. So our team really can work anywhere that there's a reliable internet connection. So in that respect, moving our workforce to be completely remote was not actually too difficult.
You're already there. It sounds it, and of course with that's just a challenge where you're distributing to in all those different places as well. Could you, I guess, give us a feel for, or maybe this is Shelly, I'm not sure, what you were doing before you had cloud ERP, and maybe what issues you were running in and why you went to it?
I'll answer that one. It's so we've been on Rootstock for just over a year, so it hasn't been too long. So this is still very fresh in my mind where we came from and where we are now. Before implementing Rootstock, our process was really quite disjointed. We managed all sales orders, which is essentially our product grants, in Salesforce. So we've had Salesforce for a while now. And we managed all of our inventory in a giant Excel sheet, and 2 people maintained that Excel sheet. So not the best process. But when we needed to fulfill an order, someone from the field, so one of the countries that we work in, would inform a program officer in the US in an email. That request would be forwarded to our logistics team. They would check the Excel sheet to see what was available where, fulfill the order, enter a line into the Excel sheet to track the outgoing shipment, and then email all the documentations back to the field. And then our program officer will go back into Salesforce, mark the date it was shipped. So obviously there's a lot of room for error in this process, and proactively managing our inventory levels around the world. And then comparing that to pending sales orders was just a very manual and a very tedious task. And our systems were they were really limiting how proactive we could be. And having 1 or 2 people manage an Excel spreadsheet of product that's reaching over 70 million people a year, it's just not a sustainable model. So we needed more real-time information, and we needed our teams all over the world to have access to this information and to be able to work collaboratively together.
It's amazing to me how many people are using Excel for what I would say is an application or a database, not necessarily for just, reports and budgets and stuff like that, but I was going to actually talk about that. Maybe I'll come back to it later, but you're not alone. When people with ERP systems also have Excel spreadsheets on top of that. So I'm not surprised to hear that story.
Hey, Tom.
So,
hey, real quick, I want to share this comment from Sandra Bonnie. And Sandra says, hey, I'm loving her. A strong emphasis on FIFO, accurately managing age shelves, and its prompt distribution. I can imagine. Sustainable development goals in action. So you got a big fan in one Sandra, who is one of our favorite regular webinar participants here.
She's my favorite too. Although, to be fair, she's the only one that I've met.
Looks great.
Thanks, Sandra.
So what do you see as the biggest improvements? I think I can guess, but I'd rather hear from the 2 of you. What do you see as the biggest improvements since you've gone to the cloud?
Sure. This is Shelley. I'd love to speak to that. So if you look at it from a business perspective, as you showed in one of your previous slides, we now have one system of record that provides us with a worldwide view into our product availability at all sites, sales order demand, and our financial metrics through real-time dashboard reports. And with these reporting dashboards, they easily show our team what's in stock at which locations, what pending orders are out there, what goods are in transit, what goods are held up. We have a lot of holdups sometimes with customs if we don't have the correct paperwork. So it helps us improve. There's some features that help us improve there as well within the system. Also, it shows us KPIs related to our beneficiary reach goals and targets, and it does a lot more for us. So all of this data that we can look at really easily now was not easy at all before. And then if you look at the improvements from a staff perspective, basically whether you're managing orders from around the world, from the US, or managing orders and inventory just in one country, each person has full visibility and management of their own business territory. And so this has drastically reduced dependencies on our headquarters team. And as you heard, it was basically 2 people trying to manage this inventory spreadsheet. And those team members, all that have been working on our supply chain and logistics for years now, we always relied on email, multiple spreadsheets, and all of these different disjointed features allowed us to do what we do well, but just a lot slower. And another thing that's been helpful for our staff is, as Tom mentioned earlier, we use Chatter in this centralized system to improve our collaboration and support of all of the different aspects of our work. So that's been super helpful as well.
that kind of thing, chatter is really helpful in a 24/7 global company, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Where you know, things are happening on different time zones and everything else, but you can keep the conversation rolling.
Yeah,
you can do it on the phone, right?
Sometimes it is you can't use chatter to collaborate with someone who's on the other side of the world, but sometimes it does work really well. You can get somebody instantly. You don't need to wait for that email.
Yeah. And you do need access, right? In some of those places, I'm sure it's getting internet's hard.
It's difficult.
Would either one of you want to comment a little bit about, you know, when COVID-19 hit, what happened to Europe? How are you guys dealing with it?
Yeah, are you speaking towards our supply chain or just operationally, like with?
Yeah, both. Really, it's
okay.
It's everything, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly has impacted us, as it has impacted most companies, I believe. How it's impacted our supply chain is that we've noticed that our manufacturers are really starting to struggle to fulfill our orders. And that comes as a result of shortages in raw material, having a smaller workforce as a result of social distancing mandates, or just other reasons that are related to COVID. But prior to COVID starting, one of our products was already experiencing some global shortages in supply. So we were already in process of starting relationships with new manufacturers as backups. So when COVID hit, we were able to spread out our orders amongst our manufacturers in order to meet the needs of our beneficiaries. However, though, we have another product that historically has been pretty stable, but we're now finding kind of some red flags that because of COVID-19, we can see that we might have some more supply chain issues in the near future. So now we're on top of it. We're already diversifying our manufacturing partners for this product as well. So in this current environment, we're really looking for anything that could be a red flag in our supply chain and then trying to respond to them quickly.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it's impacted our supply chain.
Yeah.
Did you want to know more operationally or revenues or?
Yeah, sure. If not so much revenue. I mean, I think operationally, I know you've got people out there working; they can still work. I guess that's it. But you know, which is great. So, you know, and maybe we move on to, and I think Shelley, this is yours. Is talk about a little bit more about this interaction. And you know, traditionally people buy ERP, then they buy CRM. Then they got to interface them, and it's different logins, different, you know, sometimes have to sync master records and things like that and all that. Can you talk a little bit more about what it's like running CRM and ERP together on one cloud?
Sure. Well, because they are on the same platform, we can fully manage all of our purchasing, order demand and fulfillment, you know, logistics, RMAs that you spoke about, should we have them, with one unique and secure login from multiple countries in one system. So if you think about how we have remote workers, and everybody now is experiencing the challenge of remote work. If you have one secure login into one centralized system where everybody can collaborate and find real-time information, it's fantastic. And so, you know, if we use Salesforce from the perspective of, you know, opportunities are driving your sales, and then they transition very easily over into your ERP system that's creating those sales orders and setting up the logistics and fulfillment pieces of it, and then tracking all the financial metrics against it. It just easily flows together. And, you know, going back to your earlier slide, it displays that image quite perfectly, actually. So, you know, before, even though we had Salesforce and we have many users in Salesforce that rely on it, even that wasn't sufficient because we needed that, Excel, email, back to Salesforce, you know, and then our financial system was not integrated as well. So there were multiple systems we had to try to pull together and use a lot of people to gather it for. So for example, another sort of big benefit to having both of them run on the same platform is we can see through those reports and dashboards, with the input of our grant information, that's our product demand. If that rises in one region, because we have reports set up to show those regions, we can quickly adjust and transfer inventory, over from say the States to Africa, for example, because we know that the demand has just spiked. So it's easy for us to see.
It's like having a crystal ball a little bit there. And we do talk to customers that are, you're trying to collapse the distance between sales, if you will, and forecasts and your operations and planning. And that sounds great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm going to skip forward a little bit here. Just ask you, and we talked to, Greg brought this out earlier. It's, these are big systems, and and you went through an implementation. This may not have been your only one. Do you have any advice for people that would be going through a conversion from a legacy system into the cloud? I
do. It was a really great learning experience, for one. But I do have a couple points that might be helpful. So one of them is assign a full-time technical project manager that can drive your business timeline and ensure deliverables on all your requirements. I also highly recommend keeping it as simple as possible and allow for project phases if you want a quick and smooth transition from one system, or no system in our case, to another. Another key aspect is to know your data. So for example, what information do you need to keep as legacy? What information needs to be migrated into the new system that's essential for your business to move forward and keep growing? Another tip is fully engage your subject matter experts, because they are your key to success in this. They know their business, and they should provide the use case scenarios that define the system and the process requirements. And they're also essential for testing the system implementation, confirming it's set up as expected as you move through, the configuration and possibly some customization through setting it up. But lastly, and the most dear to my heart, is embrace the fears that come with major change. So in my experience, when I started this project, everybody involved, and we had definitely a lot of people involved in this, everyone was excited for change, and we all worked really hard to prepare for it. However, it was the largest implementation I'd ever led, and I felt the self-imposed pressure to deliver exactly what was expected to many stakeholders, and obviously as quickly as possible. That was a little bit hard, but you persevere, you keep pushing through. And another aspect is you may also find yourself in the role of cheerleader to your stakeholders when they experience the uncomfortable waves of changes they'll need to make in their legacy processes. So, staying connected and flexible with your team will decrease the level of stress should you experience it in transition. And then one last piece is I want to mention that an external partner can be really helpful as well. So we have a partnership with Endeavor Incorporation that played an invaluable role in our platform evaluation, so we could make an informed decision. So we measured, Rootstock against some other systems and really did a deep analysis of it, to eventually select Rootstock as our platform. So partners, they can be really helpful as well.